Well, here we are, just a couple of days away from some more Bears football. Who's excited? We should be excited. And I'm sure Bears fans are looking at the schedule and seeing the opponent and saying, oh, baby, gonna keep pounding to a victory on this one, but not so fast. That's why they play the games, right? You just never know any given Sunday. That's all the Carolina Panthers can hold on to? I don't really know. But hey, in their defense, they've certainly played some better football, at least offensively, the past couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, they got their first win of the season against the Raiders, and they followed that up with a 34-24 loss to the Bengals last Sunday. Was Andy Dalton's second start at the helm. Chuba Hubbard went over 100 yards rushing. So there are some positives there, I suppose. With that said, you say, well, they've started Andy Dalton. They're 1-1 with him as the starter. They're still 1-3. The guy that gave up the farm for in Bryce Young, he's sitting on the bench. Like, what's the point of all this? And it's a valid question. Certainly a question I have is, what are you really gaining here? Maybe winning a couple of games with Dalton. Your team still stinks, and you're either throwing in the towel entirely on Bryce Young, which makes that trade that in the 2023 draft even a bigger disaster, or you're going to come back to him later in the year. Like, none of it really works. Like, all that said, though, there's been a lot of focus on the offense and the disaster that's been the Bryce Young experience so far, but the reality is they have another disaster, and that's their defense. The Panthers' defense absolutely sucks. They just suck. They're butt naked last in the league in points allowed and 27th in the league in yards allowed, so you can put all that focus on Bryce Young, and he stunk. You can put a focus on the Panthers in general that they stink. You know, their owner stinks. Like, you can go on and on, right? But that defense has been really, really bad. And if they're not going to improve at all it does is going to put even more pressure on Andy Dalton to be a competent quarterback, and they're going to have to score like 27, 30 points a game in order to win. And how sustainable is that for the Panthers in the construct of their offense this season? Meanwhile, for the Bears, they ran the ball. They played defense. What's that called? You know it. Bears football. The Bears beat the Rams, the depleted Rams team, 24-18 last Sunday. They're now 2-2, which is certainly stacking up to be a loaded NFC North with the Vikings a surprise 4-0. How about that, huh? I will say, like, statistically, it wasn't Caleb Williams' best game. That was the previous week against the Colts, but I think a lot of people look at that performance on Sunday against the Rams and say that was probably Caleb's best NFL performance today. I certainly thought it was. The touchdown pass to DJ Moore was great. That layered throw over the middle to Cole Kmet's the best throw he's made in the NFL so far. So saw some signs, right? You want to see more of them, but you saw something. DeAndre Swift finally did something after 3 weeks of trying to force him down everybody's throat and trying to force him to become a thing. He did become a bit of a thing last week, so that's good. It could have been a fluke. It was 1 week facing a depleted, crappy Rams defense, so don't do too many backflips here, but there certainly was progress in the running game in the offense. And when you look at this moment for the Bears, like, this is a critical, key stretch of the schedule for them. Over the next 6 weeks, they host the Panthers. Then next Sunday they go play the London game against the Jags, who are 0-4 right now. They stink. Bye week, then at the Commanders, at the Cardinals, hosting the Patriots. And then after that is when the schedule really gets tough. You've got 6 divisional games sprinkled in there. You've got the 49ers, I think, and the Seahawks in there. Like, this is the stretch. This is the moment in time that the Bears have to get it done. Like, out of these next 5 games, you have to finish at least 4-1 if you want to be a playoff team. If you're 3-2, makes it hard. If you're 2-3, you can pretty much, good night Irene, forget about it. You cannot come out of this stretch with a losing record, and you really have got to make your hay now. Because like I said, the second half of the season, the schedule gets a lot tougher, a lot tighter for the Bears. Those wins could be fewer and farther between. You got to get it done now. Because imagine coming out of that 6-week stretch and all of a sudden you beat the Panthers, let's say, and you beat the Jags, you lose to the Commanders, you beat the Cardinals, and beat the Patriots. I'm just saying, like, that's what 4-1 could look like, right? Now all of a sudden you're talking about a team that you're saying they're 6-3 with 8 games left. They've got a shot, right? They would absolutely have a shot. You start talking about 5-4, 4-5, it gets really, really tough, especially looking at the division that they're in. The betting odds for this one, the Bears are 4-point favorites, which feels right. The over-under is 41. That kind of feels right, too. In terms of injury reports for the Panthers, they're without Josie Jewell again, Shaq Thompson, Andrew Rain, their center. The Bears are only missing Zach Pickens and Terrell Smith. Not a huge loss in either case. Tevin Jenkins is questionable, assuming he's going to play. But even then, you look at how bad the Bears offensive line has been, and you say, oh no, Nate Davis might play. L. Coleman Shelton will play. L. Tevin Jenkins will play. Kind of an L this year. So hopefully they figure it out. That offensive line is stunk. In terms of keys to victory in this one for the Panthers, they've got to stuff the box, make the Bears have to throw more. Put the pressure on Caleb. Put the pressure on the Wizard Waldron, the wussy Waldron, weak-ass Waldron, whack-ass Waldron, to have to figure out how he can win throwing the football. You saw the Bears in their formula last week when they got DeAndre Swift going. It took some of the pressure off of Caleb. Their offense moved better. So try to get him back to being a one-dimensional offense. Panthers is critical for them. And then clear passing situations, blitz, blitz, blitz. The Bears can't pick up the fucking blitz. They can't pass protect in general on a consistent basis. Get after Caleb. You got to get after him, especially that pressure up the middle. Attack the middle of the Bears' offensive line. And then on offense, stay committed to Chuba Hubbard in the running game. He had over 100 yards last week. The Bears have struggled the past couple of weeks against the run. Go after them and stay committed with it. And you might eventually be here on Sunday. Get Swift going in the passing game and then run him appropriately. You saw Swift get more involved in the passing game last Sunday. That certainly carried over. You saw them start to utilize him less as a pure between the tackles runner, getting him pace. Got to do that more. No turnovers on offense. The Panthers are a bad team. One way you can help a bad team, give them the sense of belief that they can win the fucker, is you give them gifts, and gifts in the form of turnovers. Don't turn the ball over. Protect the football. That puts more pressure on the Panthers offense and more pressure on the Panthers defense. And then defensively, the Bears have got to get some pressure on Andy Dalton. As much as we're talking about, the Bears offensive line sucking, Andy Dalton's the type of guy you get some pressure on him. He can get rattled and he can put the ball at risk. Get after him and put some pressure on him and put him on his ass early and often in this one. So, like I said, this is a beginning of a really critical stretch of the schedule for the Bears. This is a must-win. And I don't think it's an overreaction to say that this is a must-win. If the Bears come into this game at home against a really bad Panthers team and they lose, not only are you going to have to hear Panthers fans pounding the tweeter devices talking about, all that shit talking about Caleb Williams and he fucking sucks and you lost to us. Ain't going to be much to be able to say, right? But even more importantly, the Bears will be 2-3, staring down, having to travel to London to take on the Jags before a bye week. They got to have this one. And I think they'll come out and play like they understand that, right? As long as Matt Eberflus doesn't have to count during this game, they should be all right. Give me the Bears to win. Bear down, bitches! 27-15.